The RD&E opened in the 1740s in Southernhay as the Devon and Exeter Hospital. It was built on land that was donated by John Tuckfield, who was the Tory MP for Exeter at the time. And some of the surgeons and physicians who are in the hospital portraits that are on display in the exhibition were actually some of the earliest doctors and surgeons who worked at the hospital. So, for example, we've got John Patch Senior, who was the first senior surgeon for the hospital. In the 20th century, it moved over to its present site at Wamford, and it became the Royal Devon and Exeter Hospital in 1899 when the Duke and Duchess of York visited and gave the hospital permission to have Royal as part of its name.
In any kind of healthcare setting, for whatever you do, whether you're actually patient-facing or admin, you definitely need a sense of humour.
That sense of finding that which is funny, that which is joyous, that which is lovely. Every discipline, if they don't have a kind of NHS sense of humour, they'll struggle.
Can't really talk about them.
I've taken a patient's meal to them once and tripped over and it landed all over them.
Sometimes you're phoning a patient up to bring them in short notice, so you'll ring them and say, like, got a slot available tomorrow. We need to do a checklist. No, that's fine. Have you got a cardiac pacemaker? No, but my husband has.
Someone had held a punch hole biopsy a little too tight and it went off and it punch holes in her hand. She has a tattoo on there of little birds and one of the birds basically disappeared.
I fainted once and a patient looked over to see where I went and they landed on top of me.
Sometimes outpatients' appointment will run late. So if some of the patients are angry, I tell them, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Fluffy. How are you?
Have you got any metal fragments in your eyes? No, but my cousin Bill did when he was in the army and all that. He had that.
We took an elderly lady from a ward. She was in her 80s and she was quite unwell. She said, "Where am I going, young man?" I said, "You're going for an MRI to see if you're pregnant."
Have you got intracranial aneurysm clip? Don't know what that is. Is it something that I eat?
I did this blood pressure on this young chap. I went, oh, thank you very much, then took the blood pressure away, not realising I still had plugged in, and the lead knocked the jug over and landed all over him.
I really enjoy working with my colleagues. That makes the whole difference between a good day and a bad day.
Practically, we're spending more time in the hospital rather than at home. So colleagues definitely become a big part of your life.
Bit of a tricky question because I work from home, so I don't have the interaction I used to have. Now things have changed since COVID. We use Microsoft Teams a lot. We have regular catch-ups, and yes, it is good to know that they're out there, even though I'm based there and they're based here.
Everybody's sort of looking after everybody else, like a family really.
The colleagues are what makes the job doable in the first place. I couldn't do the job without them really.
Very approachable, kind, supportive.
We don't sit silently in the office. We have a radio on for a bit of music and we like to have a giggle, so yeah, have a little chat, but we also do our work really well.
The staff in the department as a whole are amazing. They all work together amazingly hard to make sure that we offer a great service to patients.
This is a box of FFP3 face masks. These masks are also used for not only COVID, but tuberculosis, meningitis, normal influenza.
An X-ray machine. It's probably the only thing that is really useful.
The red badge, once I pop that red badge on, means charge nurse. That's your, the duty, sister or the duty charge nurse if you are a male.
I need to have a small piece of paper myself. If you know that, where is the radiography, where is the X radio, you can go and move it everywhere.
It would be something called a pinard. It's like a long cone and we would hold it up against our ear. It's a way of us listening to the fetal heart.
Somebody always wants a pair of scissors. A good nurse to have a pair of scissors.
There's a lot more digital equipment these days, so it's speeding up. People aren't having to wait quite so long. We're able to examine more patients because we've got more efficient equipment.
Before the invention of MRI scans and other technology, it was dissection which allowed doctors to learn how the human body worked. In the late 18th century, body snatchers or resurrection men would acquire bodies illegally from churchyards and then sell them to the medical schools. It's likely that some of the sitters in our hospital portraits learned anatomy using bodies that had been acquired in this way. Nursing is also a profession that has had huge changes over the last 300 years. It wasn't actually a formal, recognised profession until the mid-19th century, when Florence Nightingale introduced a whole slew of nursing reforms and opened the first nursing training school in London. And this change was so significant that by the dawning of the First World War, nursing was a completely accepted profession for young, unmarried women to pursue, and it was one of the few professions that they could pursue. You even had princesses donning volunteer nursing uniform and visiting patients in hospital.
So the workforce in the hospital was basically all women before in terms of nursing. It just happened that men were incorporated as well to be nurses. And then it transpired that if we're able to take in nurses from different countries internationally, then we'll be able to learn from them as well. The hospital itself nowadays is governed by a multicultural, diverse team. So different people from different areas, including me.
There's always been a very sense of closeness and sort of like, sense of belonging in within the colleagues working in a hospital setting. But I certainly feel since COVID has happened, people have definitely realised this more, that we need to be looking out for others more than we used to before.
I would make sure that it's cool enough everywhere, so that we have aircon.
I don't know, maybe some walk-around comedians or actors and actresses just to keep patient spirits up.
We would put pictures on the walls.
There'll be a proper well-being hub, breakout rooms, a gym.
Spice it up a bit with a bit of brightness, a bit of colour in there.
Moving pavements like a conveyor belt, like they have in airports.